But let's move on, talk about the top four race. I mean, I think we're all going to be of the same thinking here, but me and Barry definitely were here on the watch along. I think Sim said it in his post-match as well. But is top four most well and truly over now? We'll start with Ash on this one.
For me, it was just, it ran away basically a long time ago. I think the cup exits and multiplied by Antonio's exiting. I think his words kind of just left a ripple effect, not just across the squad, but the club and the fan base. And it really did hit true in our next couple of games, you know. Every time we had a chance to kind of make things right, we didn't. And I think that's what kind of put Conte off, especially against Southampton. We had a chance to go third. We messed it up. Everton, again, we had a chance to reconcile and prove him wrong, and we got it wrong. And that was off the back of the cup exits. Like, we had no fight in us. So the morale was pretty low. And every time we have a chance to improve on our performances, so far it hasn't happened. We haven't had a positive performance or positive result side by side. It's like we can't do either of them. And that's the reason why a lot of fans at the moment aren't seeing that top four race possible, especially looking at the fixtures that we're running into. The fixtures that we have, it's like a top six battle for top four. We've got to face, you've got your Man United at home. So even before Man United, Newcastle away at St James's Park next week. We've got Man United at home. And then after Man United at home, Liverpool. You couldn't write a bigger script. Do you know what I mean? And it's because of the bottle. It's because of the mentality. It's because we don't know what we are. We don't know if we're a high press, a mid press, a low block, a counter attack, because any particular tactic we try to execute, we're not doing it particularly well. So sometimes it doesn't matter what formation we kind of jump into. We're not executing it. And then the personnel, even going back to the game on Saturday, I saw Skip playing like an attacking midfielder when he's not an attacking midfielder. Do you know what I mean? So he's asking players to do certain jobs which are not their skill set. And then you're looking at other players and you're like, well, I need you to step up, and certain players are just going missing. Like, Son played well, Kane played okay, but after certain parts of the game, you're looking for them to kind of step it up, and that's not happening. They are big players, and you want them to step up and take the game by the scruff of the neck. You know, like what Steven Gerrard used to do. You know, you're looking for a captain, and our captain's Lloris at the moment. And you know, when it comes to big games, what can we do? What can we look for? And so that's the reason why it's hard to see Spurs looking at top four, because it was in our hands and now it feels like it's slipping through our hands. It's almost out of our hands. It practically is out of our hands. That's how the feeling is amongst the fan base, I know the players are going to play to the end, and mathematically they want to see, this is football, anything can happen, but it's more than that. It's more, if we were performing better, if we were performing well, it'll be different, but we're not.
Yeah. I echo those thoughts completely, Ash. But Barry, what are you thinking? Top four done?
Yeah, well, of course it is. I mean, looking at the table, like we said at the weekend, Ben, you know, United are with 6 points behind United, going to Newcastle, who are 3 points ahead with a game in hand, plus they're playing us. They beat us. They go 6 points ahead of us with a game in hand. The worst possible result was them getting battered by Villa at the weekend as well. So they're going to want to prove a point. Brighton obviously have 2 games in hand, so they can overtake us. And Liverpool, I know at the moment, you know, they're 9 points behind, but they've got 2 games in hand and they play us. So that's the 9 points. They've got a better goal difference. We could easily finish in 8th. I guess the only thing that helps us is that Brentford have gone on this like crazy run where they've not won in 5, and we're probably 8th is the worst that we can finish, right? But if we don't get any more, you know, I don't see how we get any points from the next 3 games. Then we're going up against we're going up against Palace, who are three out of 3 in the last 3 games, scoring for fun. Leeds are going to be there and thereabouts towards the end of the season. And then we go to Villa as well, who are, I think of 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 11 or whatever they've won in a row or in the last few games. So I just can't see it. We're just not in form. We don't play well when we have more than 1 game a week. I mean, we don't play well when we've got 1 game a week now. So
I think that 2 game a week argument's completely gone out the window.
Yeah. We just don't play well when we play football.
we're just not good.
Yeah. So, look, and obviously, look, without Harry Kane's goals, we'd be on 31 points and down there with West Ham. So, yeah, it's everything at the moment that could go wrong, is going wrong. And I just don't see how, like Ash said, if we'd beaten Southampton, gone into 3rd, the season ticket renewals would have come out with a price increase. But there's just nothing. I mean,
the fine lines for Enoch, Barry. The fine lines.
So look, but we've had how often, not just this season, but how often when there's been an opportunity to close the gap or to do something, we've always had the opportunity where we've played first or we're playing last and our opponents have dropped points. We never take advantage. It's that pressure again. They sit there and they're like, oh well, it's only Bournemouth, so we're going to get 3 points, and it's like, no, you can't think like that when they're down there scrapping for their lives. They've won 3 out of the last 5. So, I mean, we've won 2 out of the last 5, and look at the difference is 9 places or whatever it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at it right now, when you're looking at the way Spurs are playing, I mean, I think you'll be hard pressed to find any Spurs fan that says that we're going to make the top 4 this year, or that are confident, or even make the prediction that we can make the top 4 this year. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, in the next 2 weeks, we play Newcastle away, Man United at home, and Liverpool away, and you're probably, every single Spurs fan watching Spurs probably say we get 0 points out of those 3 games, because that's the way I'm looking at it. And once we get 0 points out of those 3 games, then it probably is completely, absolutely done, dead in the water. But what you can say is that form can turn on a knife edge. We've seen it with Bournemouth this season. Like, Bournemouth were completely shot to pieces. They were losing every game, and suddenly something just clicked and they start winning a few games. We've seen it with Aston Villa with the turn of Unai Emery. Can I see that happening with Spurs? No, not at all. But can it happen? You never know. So I wouldn't say it's completely dead in the waters, but I would say probably, in my mind, it's probably about 95% that we're not getting top 4 this year. And that 5% of me saying that we can get it is just pure delusion when you're looking at, the way Spurs are playing and the matches that we do have. But we've been in this situation before. Last season, at one point in the season with 10 games to go, every Spurs fan said, no chance we're getting top 4. It's not a possibility. And we went on to get it. So, I mean, if the players can dust themselves down and actually fight for the cause from now until the end of the season, there is a slight chance. But if they're going to go in with the same mentalities and everything like that, then we don't have a hope in hell. That's the honest.
Surely, Ben, they want to see me with the Emerson Royale haircut. Surely the Spurs players want to see that, right?
The most frustrating thing for me is in terms of that way of thinking. I think you're right, because if you look at the maths, like, we are technically 3 points behind Newcastle. We play them next week. If we do look, for me to actually get top 4, we need out of the next 3 games, our Liverpool, Newcastle, United, we need at least 6 points minimum. Yeah. Anything less than that, it's not possible at all. Yeah. I don't think that's possible because of the way we're playing and actually shambles. But the most frustrating thing about all this for me is that we had these opportunities in the last 3 games against Southampton, Everton and Bournemouth. All those games were in the palm of our hand. All those games, we had them. It's not like we had to do anything special to win those games. We were 3-1 up against Southampton with 15 minutes to go. We were 1-0 up against Everton and they had 10 men. We'd just drawn it back to 2-2 against Bournemouth. We had and we had like 8-9 minutes left of the game and to create chances. Like, all those games there, and we got all the luck in the world against Brighton. So all those games were there for us. So all of this, like, we have to dust ourselves down now and we have to like go again and have a good end season. Like, this is like, you've missed the boat, in my opinion. It was just there for you. You literally had the opportunity and you've let it slip through your fingers. Like, it's not, this isn't a case of like, we've had really hard games and now we can like look ahead to some easier games to try and catch up. It's like, no, you've had these games to really put yourselves in this top four conversation, and you haven't had it in you to see out the job and really put yourselves in that conversation. That, to me, that just tells me they don't want it enough. That tells me that it tells me that they're not really serious about getting this top four spot. If they were serious, I don't think we'd be sitting here thinking about needing 6 points against Newcastle, Man United. We wouldn't be sitting here saying that. We'd be sitting here thinking maybe we can get a draw, and maybe we only need to win one of those games. We're now sitting here saying we need 6 points in those 2 games because we left ourselves in this situation. And if we were serious about top four, we wouldn't have done that. So for me, that's the most frustrating thing about this whole situation. And I can't for the life of me. I think there's more chance of, I don't know, Man United winning the league than Spurs like getting 6 points out of the next 2 games, to be honest. There's no chance we're getting 6 points the way we're playing. Absolutely no chance. We might fluke a win, but we'll undo that good work probably the week after. Like, the only win we've been able to get over the last 4 games, it's the definition. If you literally look up the definition of paper over the cracks, you'll see Tottenham was in over Brighton. That's what we'll see in the 100%. Dictionary. There's literally the definition of papering over the cracks. And also, there is no chance.
And also, you don't. It's not even just the next 3 games as well. We've got Crystal Palace after that, who are revitalised under Roy Hodgson. We've got Aston Villa after that, who are like the best performing team in the Premier League at the moment. And then we finish off with Brentford and Leeds. And Leeds might be scrapping last game to stay in the Premier League. And Brentford are a very good side, albeit not on great form. But, it's not all beyond all realms of possibility. We don't win that game. So, I mean, when you're actually looking at it, the form that we're on from now to the end of the season, you'll be hard pressed to find more than 2 wins out of that. Literally 2 wins. We've
literally just had 3 of the perfect situations. We were at home to the worst defence in the league in Bournemouth, 1-0 up and 10 men against Everton and couldn't get the job done, 3-1 up against bottom of the league Southampton. If you can't get 9 points in those games, then go home. There's no point.
Well, I said as well, I said how many, when we were talking about it, didn't I? You said how many points from these last 9 games, and I said 9. And we got lucky against Brighton, so we could have 0 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. 3. We got 3. So, like you say, Ben, 6 points. I don't see much more than that, to be honest with you.
But when you're not winning those games I just described, any game's going to look difficult when you're not winning those games.
I could say, like, maybe we'll fluke what? Maybe we'll fluke a win against Crystal Palace and Brentford in the home games.
The only thing I will say, there's one thing I will say, and it's a very, like, before we move on to the next topic, there's nothing like evidence-based, but with Longley being injured, could this force Stellini into a change of formation? If we do change of formation to maybe forward to back, go a bit more offensive, could that spring a few surprises, and maybe some teams might not know what to expect? Maybe it can spring some few
talking about the mettle of the players, you know what I mean?
Of course.
It's always.
But sometimes you get some change. It brings a new dynamic, and maybe that can make us a bit more offensive, and maybe that could bring a few, in the short term anyway, a few better results. That's the only thing I'm thinking.
I don't know, Tim. I said if we're going at 4 at the back, we're going to have to go at least 3 in midfield, but then we don't have anyone to cover in that midfield either, right?
Let's play Sarr, Skip, and
Perisic and Porro at left back and right back would just be horrible.
Well, for the second half against Bournemouth, he put Kulusevski in the hole, Danjuma on the right, Son on the left, and Kane up front. Could he do that?
Not against Newcastle.
We have to win. We have to win, so we might as well go attacking. We have to win the game. We can't get a draw.
Yeah, I suppose we could just go, do you know what? It doesn't matter what we do. Rather than sitting back and trying to hit on the counter, we might as well just go all the way up. And if we lose 5-6-0, then we lose 5-6-0, right?
Look, if we do go up to St James's next weekend and win, are your opinions going to change, Ash?
No, I think basically what it is with Spurs, even if we are to, like I said before, it doesn't matter if we're in a 5 or in a 4. You just need to press Tottenham. Just press them. And the ball, oh my lord.
It's because we don't have any good technical press-resistant players.
Exactly. It's exactly that. Any player that we have, even down to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper, he wants to take his time before he gets his touch under. And that buys 1 or 2 seconds for the opposition to press our wing backs or our full backs, and that's where the mistakes happen. That's what happened with Sanchez, when Sanchez played it out to Porro, and then instead of it going back to Sanchez because 2 or 3 players were on him, obviously those two didn't have the chemistry. Because another thing is, because we play the same 11 a lot of the time, when we try to play other players in the system, it just falls apart because the rhythm isn't there and they're not used to each other. So they're not anticipating what their next person's going to be. Do I need to come short for him? Do I stay where I am? Do I help him? Do you know what I mean? Do I change the angle? Because that's what it's about. It's about creating an angle. If that player is not as good as someone else is in that particular position, you need to make that pass maybe a bit more coachable so they can take their first touch. You might have to put it onto their right foot, which is their stronger foot, not onto their left foot. And that's what happened with Porro. Got put on his left foot. Then he had to try to adapt his body position, and the pass was under hit as well. And that's because obviously Sanchez hasn't been playing a lot, and that confidence is effective. And when your confidence is affected, you're not going to pass out the same way you need to. When you're playing out from the back, it needs to be what I call a bounce ball or one-touch football, and that's how you progress up the field. And so if we were to win by Newcastle, which would be a miracle because Newcastle are going to press us. That's what they do. They like to press. And I don't think whether it's a 5 or 4, we're going to be able to get out of that, especially away from home, St. James's Park, when the fans are going to be in our ears. If we somehow manage to pull off a win, it's going to be the same thing when Man United come to press us. Do you know what I mean? And Man United, you know what it is when we play Man U. Come on, let's not play games.
And also, do you think the Everton, the Brighton, the Bournemouth has coincided with Hugo coming back? Because we didn't see any of this nervousness when Forster was in goal.
We drew 3-3 to Southampton, didn't we?
Yeah, with that VAR call that was not really. Do you know what I mean? I get it, but every time the ball's gone back, there's that nervousness. I didn't have that nervousness when Forster was in goal. I don't know. That was just me.
I don't know. I think maybe it has kind of seen it in light a bit more, but I still think there was nervousness before Hugo Lloris came back. I mean, I'm not going to put it down on Hugo, but maybe it is a slight element to it.